Greetings, fellow sausages, it's the Countess, and today we're going to be going in depth on a topic in Animal Jam that has always really puzzled me. I did a lot of research for this one, so it's going to be a little bit of an info-packed video for you guys, but hopefully you enjoy. So today we're going to be talking about what the difference between an animal like this in Animal Jam is versus an animal like this. And there are many cases of this in Animal Jam. I'm not going to go over all of them, but essentially there are animals that behave the way that the playable animals do, and then there are animals that look somewhat more realistic and that act more like actual animals in the real world would. So today we are going to be breaking down exactly why this happens, how it's possible, where else it happens, and what this would classify as. So without further ado, here we go. So before we can discuss what the difference between us as an animal and the more realistic animals around the world that don't appear to have the level of sentience that we do, or acknowledgement of being alive and ability to control exactly what you're doing and have controlled thoughts, we need to figure out what exactly each of us individually are. So I think the easiest way to classify an Animal Jam animal is as anthropomorphic. Now, this is a word that you may or may not have heard before, but it's very similar to the term personification, which is used in literary senses, poetry, metaphors, similes, every sort of writing. And essentially what personification is in writing to make it either more interesting or to have a deep hidden meaning when people apply human qualities to things that aren't human or do not have sentience or appear to be living. Sometimes they are living, for example, trees. However, they don't act like humans and they couldn't speak. But in several poems, it is mentioned that either trees or the wind seems to whisper in a way, and this is personification, when we give human-like qualities to something that wouldn't normally have them. Now, anthropomorphism is along similar lines, but it's a lot more visual. For example, a lot of cartoons that you probably grew up with as a kid, even classics, Mickey Mouse, Peppa Pig, I don't know what's around you guys. Really, any TV show that had animals in it had anthropomorphic animals. If those animals either spoke, moved like humans, walked on two legs, even if they could just I don't know, if they could cook a potato. I literally don't know. If they could do anything a human could do, then what you were witnessing was an anthropomorphic animal. Now, to simply say anthropomorphism is when an animal has human traits, much like personification. It's essentially just a real-life form of such personification. Now, anthropomorphism takes many forms. A lot of times it's viewed in cartoons, and these are some of the most memorable moments in anthropomorphic animals, and it's some of the things that people like to look at. There are other categories of this, but I think that definitely the closest we can get to what we are in Animal Jam is an anthropomorphic cartoon character. And the reason why is because, just like those cartoon characters, we are rather semi-unrealistic. Animal Jam has its own style, and I wouldn't say that it's like any cartoon style that I've ever seen, but I definitely think you could say that in the sequences where we see Animal Jam animate things, which is rarely, and it's in their style, it definitely looks like it could be a cartoon. So I think that our animals, if you saw them just on a TV screen, you could very easily define as a cartoon. And I kind of like that about Animal Jam. But the question is, why would these animals be in a cartoon? Now, simply saying there's not a whole lot to back this, because it does have to do with personal situations, and some people don't like those cartoons. There are a lot of children who are very scared of these cartoons. There are a lot of people who are very scared of when they go to places like Chuck E. Cheese's or anywhere where they have giant animatronic animals. They're very scared of that sort of thing, and it can be scary for some children. But what we found through studies is that in cartoons, generally when the main characters are animals, you find more sympathy for them. A lot of people just really feel a lot towards animals, and it's very hard to explain, but if you've ever seen a movie where a person dies and a dog dies, sometimes you find yourself being more attached to the dog, and you feel bad, but you don't really know why. Sometimes it's just because you feel like the dog had less control over the situation, and the human could have called for help. He would have a lot more control And the human is able to use a fire extinguisher if there was a fire in the house. Let's just say that the house caught on fire and there was a situation with this dog and the human in the house. Generally, you're going to feel compelled to be more sympathetic to the dog because there's so many less things that the dog can do that the human can do. The human can access water to put out the fire. The human can use a phone to call the fire department. The human can use a fire extinguisher. Meanwhile, the dog is left trying to run out of the house or find a safe place. So in general, you find yourself being drawn to looking towards the dog's side because you want to help him the most, because he's the one that you believe needs the most help. In such, liking the character a lot more than you might like a human character, which means that you'll get more attached to the show, more attached to the characters, and you'll be inclined to watch more because you want to figure out what happens to that animal, and you'll be inclined to want the best for them, which is what cartoon creators want of their characters. They want them to be loved. And to be completely honest with you, I don't think that I would have the same feeling about Animal Jam if it was very realistic. I don't know, I feel like it would be a lot scarier for children, especially when people role play. You know, it's all fun and games because they're cute animals, but if it was very realistic wolves and they were actually fighting and it appeared that way, it would be really scary for young children. Animals that are just kind of floating around as little animations to bring nature into Animal Jam don't even have artificial intelligence. As a matter of fact, they're not even programmed. It's just a little couple frame animation that Animal Jam put in. It's essentially the background. The background doesn't have any sort of sentience. It is even programmed with artificial intelligence, okay? Like, it literally cannot think for itself, and it's just there, and there's a couple different frames that Animal Jam animated, and it switches throughout those so it appears that the flamingo is moving. So obviously that's not really what Animal Jam intended to put out towards us, but it is very symbolic of humans versus animals in real life. The animals are just sort of in the background, and compared to us running around Animal Jam, the flamingo in the background is definitely a lesser. I do very much think that this is meant to symbolize actual animals and that it's meant to show that we are essentially the humans in the situation. Now, in Animal Jam, there are no humans present aside from the videos that we have, so I think that it's safe to assume that everything built in this world, everything that we see, everything going on, is all run by the animals, which means that they have a lot more human qualities than we even think that they do, because in order for all of those things to get there, and in order for there to be stores that actually cycle items, that would in turn hint towards the animals being able to run all of that. I looked into cartoon characters, anthropomorphic-wise, owning pets despite being animals. So since now we have a flamingo, but there's also a regular animal flamingo in the game, it would be hard to distinguish which is which and why that one's not playable, but the other flamingos are playable. So there's really a need to have a fine line between animals and anthropomorphic animals in that media. So in the sense of cartoons, the reason why they introduce pets is because they want you to be able to distinguish between what an anthropomorphic animal in the cartoon is, or the human in the situation is, and what a normal animal would look like in that situation. So this is exactly what's going on here, and it's sort of Animal Jam's way of showing that, hey, there still is nature going on, but you're not just a normal animal. And whether or not Animal Jam intended this to be very noticeable, or they intended someone to actually think about it this way, I have no idea, but I definitely think that they put some thought into it because they did bother to stylize these other animals a completely different way than our animals. It still has the same kind of blocky, geometrical shape feel as the rest of Animal Jam style. However, they're obviously very different and they're a lot more detailed than our animals. They also have a lot more shading. Our animals are just kind of one solid tone, aside from some items like the Cupid wings, which do actually have shading. However, that flamingo actually does have various tones of each shade so that it looks a lot more realistic. So, whether or not Animal Jam intended for me to distinguish myself as an anthropomorphic animal and that animal as a regular animal, I have no idea, but they definitely intended for something to happen here because it's obviously different looking at the flamingo that is in the newspapers that we're going to get. And I think that it's really interesting because it means that Animal Jam is basically a cartoon world. And I don't really know why I never thought of this before, but it's so crazy to think because in this situation, Animal Jam is now making it clear that our animals are very much the humans. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more logical videos as opposed to more quirky videos, then you can go ahead and let me know. I don't usually do this kind of stuff just because it's not really the type of person I am, but today was kind of a really busy day for me. I know a lot of you probably thought that I wasn't going to upload just because it's getting late now, and I know a lot of you probably won't be able to watch this until tomorrow. However, hopefully I'm still going to be able to get it up at a decent time when some of you can see it. And hopefully you enjoy it, because I do still want to keep up the daily uploads, even if today's video was very busy. I'm going on a trip soon, so hopefully I can get some pre-recording in, and we can do it, you guys. So, please show your support. I would love it so much. If you could just leave a like, you'll be sent an invisible high five from a hamster. I worked really hard to get this out to you guys. So if you want to subscribe today, you can become an official fabulous sausage. I will see all of you next time, but for now, Countess out.